What's up, everybody? Welcome to Shared Screens Media Club / Critical again with another Starfield episode. Today we have a brand new cast of Starfielders, Constellation members, astronauters, whatever you want to say. We've got Alec, Bobco, and Austin Ernst. How is everyone doing today?
I'm an astronauter.
I knew it was wrong, but it sounded so fun to say it like that.
Doing good tonight.
I'm not doing the best, Jordan. Do you want to hear the story? I don't know if you saw in chat why I was like a little late, but
I read, and I wasn't sure if it was a euphemism.
Nope. I mean that literally. Like,
good.
My sewage line is right now, so that's real fun. But
never like to hear that.
Luckily, my wife is here, and she's an adult, so she is taking care of it. So
I like the implication that you're not an adult.
That was what I was getting at.
I have grown. So my sewage line has been broken since I was 12, but that's not why we're here today. So today we have another Starfield episode talking about something pretty specific. This is not only full spoiler cast where we get to discuss the whole story and all that, but today we are also talking end game content, new game plus content, everything that can happen that we've been up to or doing since the credits rolled. Guys, we've all rolled credits. We know that the game ends with us choosing to go into the Starfield or not. And I want to start with that. I just beat the game 2 days ago, maybe 3. Time's a flat circle, but very recently, and I actually went back. So I walked into the Starfield. I came out the other side, born again, with a nice new ship, everything all white, no money, no weapons, which is, I'm not going to lie, that's what upset me the most. I have 1 million credits right now. It's like, you want me to pay 1 million credits just to fucking keep going? So I reloaded the save, and part of it was I also thought about my character. And I don't think my character is the type to like do that. You know, it's all about, we've been talking about the last couple podcasts, kind of our in-head roleplay or our head canons, the way we've been trying to stick to these characters we're writing. And Starfield is good because no matter kind of who you make, your character's the reluctant hero, you know, it's just a mining operator who got all heebie-jeebied out by the artifact. You know, you played it. But yeah, I went back and chose to walk the other direction after meeting the god that looks like me, because I really didn't think my character was the type to go into a new universe. But I've been reading about what these new universes can offer, and I would love to hear what you guys did. Austin, I mean, we haven't heard you talk about Starfield on content at all yet.
About that, like I might just go on tangents about things in Starfield that aren't late game, just because I haven't had an opportunity to do that. I will try to keep it to late game discussion, but don't be shocked if I talk about like the jetpack or whatever, and I love that shit. The boost pack, what do you want to call it? I always do the thing where like, oh, this is the ending. I'm gonna do a hard save, but I'm gonna do everything I can to somewhat experience all of them. So I have like my canon ending, which is like I was like, nah, I'm good, and I turned around. That's my canon ending. I was like, nah, I'm not going to go into another universe. But I definitely trudged into like every kind of tangent I could, even with like the new game plus, kind of going in and seeing what changes I can get if I try to do it again, which I haven't done, but I want to. But yeah, my initial ending was me just turning around and being like, I have more shit to get done before I do this. That was my thing, and I like Bethesda games for that. Like you said, like my character wouldn't do this. I don't feel like I'm a huge role playing like to the hardcore in these games, but I always subtly role play where I'm like, I'm always a good person, but like I steal shit though. You know what I mean? Like I'm always morally good, but I'm kind of like teetering on like not morally bad, but like morally kind of unjustified.
You're not a saint, but like overall, you're
I'm not
doing
just gonna willy nilly kill these people for no reason, kind of thing.
It's like the Guardians kind of thing. It's like a little of both.
Yeah. That's always how I do it. But yeah, my canon ending is me just turning around and being like, I'm just going to see what else Starfield has to offer. My one question to both of you is I rolled credits around like 25 hours, which I don't think is that much. But I was curious when like how many hours you guys have put in by the time you got to that point.
For me, it was probably close to 55 to 60 hours.
Yeah,
but granted, I did a lot of side content.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the number. I know it does it by days, and last I checked, it was definitely at least 3 days. It might be up to 4 or 5 now, since I really haven't been paying that close attention, but I'd say, yeah, similar to Alec. But I've been playing the game since early access pretty regularly, at least every day, if not, multiple hours on the weekends. And so I chose to kind of I would mainline in batches. So it'd be like, okay, let me do like the
Yep.
next 5 missions. Let me fuck off for days. Then let me do the next 5 mission, and then let me do whatever I want for days. And then kind of by the end, not just because we were recording this, but out of my own curiosity, I did kind of just go, there's not that much left. Let's just see what the ending has to offer, and then we could do everything else afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point, and that's how you should play it. That's not how I did it. I pretty much, I mean, there are exceptions for like a few hours here and there. I did side content, but I pretty much mainline this game, and I do not suggest that. Like, it is easily made it my
I agree.
again, not my least favorite video game, but my least favorite Bethesda title. There are moments where the character interactions, even leading up to the end, which I like the ending. I just feel like this was the least I've ever been like intrigued with the lore of what this ending means. Does that make sense? Like in Fallout games, if you ever rolled credits on a Fallout game, it shows you like all the factions or like important people and like little snippets at the end, like because you did this, this is what happened. Because you did this, this is what happened with these groups of people. And they do that in the ending here, but I just did not give a shit. I don't know why. The only one I even remotely cared about was Constellation, and I was like, that's because that's all I know in this game at this point. Because again, I mainlined it for the most part.
Now, I will say, if you mainlined it, and I won't say too much because I didn't do a whole bunch of specific side stuff. I kind of more fucked around. But some of the side missions I did came up in that ending section. So the more you do, the more they're showing your impact.
That's a Bethesda game. I know.
Okay, I just wasn't. Yeah.
What I'm getting at is there was nothing in the game, even when because without playing the side content, I looked into what the side content would kind of entail and like how the Ryujin was like essentially like the Thieves Guild and kind of like stuff like that. And I was just like, yeah, I don't give a shit. And like I've looked into what those endings would be because again, for like what we do, I wanted to be able to have a discussion about it because me only putting 30 hours in. I will come back to Starfield, not because I think it's game of their contender, but like next year, I with a Bethesda game, I love these systems. Like this is what I'm used to, buggy or not. But yeah, 30 hours wasn't more than enough for me, and I don't really care to go back to it right now. I will in the future, but there's just something about the way the lore was expressed and told in this one that I just didn't care. I don't like it's like a vast open world with nothing to do. I don't know how to explain that. And the ending kind of felt the same. We're giving you answers, but only because we have to give you answers. It doesn't feel like these answers are justified or like genuinely interesting. It's just like, this is what happened. And you're like, cool. And then you get to New Game Plus. And I think there's intriguing things about the New Game Plus, but that's kind of
how I'm right there with you, Austin. Like I did choose to go into the Starfield just because I've, heard all these things about New Game Plus is crazy, blah 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 blah. And I misread one of the prompts it gives you when it tells you like, hey, this is New Game Plus, you're Starborn now, you have this nice ship and all that, and you have gives you the nice armor. Nice. Ship is nice. The armor is really cool because you don't need the helmet or a boost pack. It's all built into your suit. But yeah, no weapons, no money, all your ships that you spent all this time upgrading, building yourself, just all gone. Like
you think you would find it in the ship or something.
Then see, that's something, when I was writing some of my thoughts down, like I wish they would have at least given you an option to grab like your stuff.
Or pick one weapon, pick one helmet.
And that I wrote that down as well. It's like, hey, as a compromise, just let me pick one weapon. Let me pick one of my ships. Like,
I still would have been mad, but I would have been like, okay, I get it.
Or at least
I'm going
my
to
credits.
A new timeline. I get it. Yeah.
Right. Like, it's like one of those, like, I understand it, but it's like, I spent so much credits, so much time upgrading these ships.
Yep.
Like, then they're just gone.
I think there could have been a creative post-game quest right at the top, like, hey, you lost your shit, you want to get it back, kind of like a weird quest to kind of like go back. You show up, you see yourself talking to yourself, and you just kind of like loot yourself, and then you fucking bounce.
I will say, knowing that everything gets removed, if I was to do a replay of this game where I go, this time I am going to go into the Starfield, I'm not going to be money hoarding or resource hoarding.
Not at all.
Close to what I'm doing. If I
changes the entire dynamic of like getting to the end game.
Yeah, which is like, I think there's not a good or bad answer in the sense of like that's how they designed it. I just think not being told and playing the first run of the game the way you normally would, it just it takes you off guard so much. But
Like,
yeah, if I would be playing complete. Woo, I would be playing completely differently. No, now
If you
that I
knew
know,
that.
if I knew that, and like that does sound fun in the future to be like, well, you know, this money doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right.
I
Like
agree.
for me though, like it took so much fun, like because I didn't absolutely love this game. I enjoyed it because I had a lot of nitpicks with this game. But granted, I was able
There's
to
a lot.
mod a lot of those things out, so it was still a decent experience for me since I played on PC. But after I rolled credits and messed around like for an hour or two in New Game Plus, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm done. Like, let the modders get a hold of the creation kit next year, and I'll see it sometime after that when some of the crazier mods come out. Like, I do not need to replay this game anytime soon.
Yeah, and I feel the exact same way, and that's like very Bethesda, where like you can. I don't know if other Bethesda titles have had a twist on the New Game Plus like this, which again I think is very interesting and
Oh
like
yeah, I
is a
agree.
cool concept.
Yep.
But I've never felt, besides that, I've never felt so like unenthused with going back. I will, because I know Bethesda games, and I know with me mainlining it, there's going to be so much more for me to genuinely find and enjoy. But I feel like the incentive, like I feel like there's a disconnect between them giving you the incentive to come back outside of the New Game Plus. Like I feel like they just really leaned on that, and they're like, this is why they'll do it, and like everything else is kind of just bland.
Yeah,
Like the incentives of like even like exploring Starfield feels like kind of off. Like they want you to go anywhere and do anything, but like 90% of the content is just fucking boring. And I'm like, I don't know why I would want to do this, but
Like so many loading screens. Why are there so many loading screens?
yeah, like man, and again, I'm used to that with Bethesda titles, and I get it. But like, if you were going into a game, like I'm not a space person, still not a space person, which tells you like this game didn't really succeed for me.
Mm-hmm.
If you know you're making this big of a game, you have to tackle the technical side first. Where it's like, we
Yeah.
need to minimize the loading screens. Look, if the loading screens were just in travel, I would understand. And that's a lot of it, but there's still so many more. Like opening a fucking door, and you're like,
or
cool.
To get into your ship, or so like to go to another planet or system,
Mhm.
you have a loading screen to get into your ship,
Mhm.
a loading or a cutscene to get into your seat for the cockpit,
Mhm.
a loading screen to jump into space,
Mhm.
a loading screen to jump to that other system, a loading screen to land in that system,
Yeah.
and then a loading screen to leave your ship.
Yeah, if the loading screens were just minimized to like the genuine space travel, I'd be like, that makes sense. That like you're loading an entirely new solar system. Like, cool. I am okay with that.
Yeah, I think we talked about this in one of the earlier Starfield podcasts, but like have either of you touched or played around with No Man's Sky at all? Just so this comparison,
A little bit at launch,
like literally
not
3
much.
hours with my cousin, and he was like, "I'm into this," and I was like, "There's too much."
Okay. Yeah, so like I'm sure. So you guys will know then that like the flying in No Man's Sky is seamless, like from planet to atmosphere. I was hoping that at least within the same solar system, it would be very No Man's Sky flying esque, where for just using our solar system as an example, if I'm at Mercury, I can fly to Pluto without any loading screens, and I could choose to do it if just on engines. I could choose to do it with grav driving, so it's just I'm moving way faster. And I think that would have made space combat much more dynamic. You would have been able to find people in those, in kind of in the in betweens. Like, okay, it's very much a well. Are you in Mercury? Are you
ship's orbit? Yeah,
yeah. Like it's very
Can I
much.
jump in
Are
on that?
you?
Or
Yeah,
planet's
sure thing.
orbit.
Can I? Because if this was any other developer, I'd be like, yeah, that's going to come like a year down the line. I would guarantee it. But I know Bethesda too much. They will have small tweaks. They will tweak their game, but they are not going to add that.
I think someone already made a
happen.
mod that lets you do at least travel within one solar system.
That's part, and I don't mean this in like the negative sense, but that's part of the problem. Where like
They
Bethesda
know people
knows
mod
mods
stuff
are going to come, so they're like, we don't need to do this. We don't need to spend the time that like a genuine amount of time to make this correctly. Because yes, that mod will probably be great, but there's going to be a moment down the line where that mod breaks something. It's going to cause a problem. Like that's how mods work.
Until they decide to officially take that modder,
Yeah.
bring them into the system, so that way they can guarantee those mods work seamlessly. All that.
Like that mod will bork someone's entire save. And now, if you're going into a game with mods, you kind of know that already. You know you're kind of going into the uncharted waters. You're setting yourself up for that. You understand that, but that doesn't make it
that
okay
some
for Bethesda.
update
Yes,
will
make it okay
just
for Bethesda
bork
to
your
be
game
lazy,
eventually.
quote unquote lazy in that department.
Yeah, the best comparison I can make with Bethesda's kind of reliance on the modders, and I mean this in both a negative way and a positive way, because I do see that sometimes they lean on it too much. But like, and Alec, you'll appreciate this, if Bethesda is Wizards of the Coast and their games are D&D, the modders are just homebrewers, where they're going, okay, I don't really like how this system works, so here is a way that I made it work that other people might appreciate better, and I'm putting it out there. But when you get to a technical game, yeah, you end up with, well, this can break the game on a literal fundamental level of the coding, not break the game in terms of balancing. Sure. And then you also get into just, well, these are features I think should have been there from the get-go, or these are features I feel like should have been implemented by the makers rather than fans. But it often feels like, as Bethesda's embraced the modding community, it's very much become a D&D and homebrewer type of relationship.
Yeah. As a Bethesda fan, it's something that this is like a feeling I get often. I feel like Fallout feeling like bland and empty, and this is not an excuse, almost makes sense for Fallout
because it's post-apocalyptic.
Because it's post-apocalyptic, things are supposed to be kind of destroyed. So when you do find this small little glimpse of quote unquote humanity, it feels right. You're like, because you are in a sense role playing in that, like, you're not expecting to run into another human all the time, so it makes sense. But I feel like they bring that same philosophy to Starfield, and it's like, there's a disconnect there for me. The best thing I can say is that this kind of feels like a half step between No Man's Sky and Mass Effect, where like it's a half step to both of them. So like here's No Man's Sky and here's Mass Effect, and they go to here, which this is the final product, and it's like, it's good. Don't get me wrong. Starfield is a good video game. Anyone who says it's not, like, I think you went into it either A, you're not a Bethesda fan, you wouldn't have liked this already, or B, you had lofty expectations that are somewhat not your fault, because some of the videos that they showed near launch and all the way they were talking this game up, like I understand.
And then it became this is the game that needs to save Microsoft. When it was started development, it by no means ever had that weight on its shoulders.
And to an extent,
you've talked about that, I know.
Yes, to an extent, this game did already save Microsoft, if you think about it. The amount of money that Starfield got Xbox is they've already succeeded. This is exactly what they knew would happen. They were just hoping the final verdict would be a little higher. The verdict on this game overall is probably like a 7, right?
Apparently, I don't remember what review board this was, but apparently on one review board now, it's like the lowest rated Bethesda game, even lower
than 76.
Yeah.
And as someone who loves Fallout, no, it is not worse than 76. No. I don't give a shit.
I don't give a shit what anyone says. I think it's objectively a good game for what it tries to do, but it was trying to do so much, the marketing couldn't hone in on it. And I do think a lot of the issues all start to make sense when you realize what they're going for. But again, none of us went in playing that way, because from people I know that have done multiple New Game Plus runs, just mainlining, getting the artifacts, seeing what the new universe has to offer, they're good. They're increasing like 2 levels. And one of my issues is that leveling is too slow. Now, being in a post game that's not New Game Plus, I'm having a lot of trouble trying to find things to do to gain XP that isn't just XP farming, but like actual activities to keep me occupied.
I do not personally think the leveling is too slow. I do think there are too many perks for you to try to get that make the leveling feel slow.
That's fair.
I think instead of having 4 tiers, if they literally drop it down to 3 and kind of mix and matched those like benefits from me, I think that would fix a lot of it. But that's just me. The main part I wanted to get into when kind of comparing Fallout, because that's my bread and butter, to Starfield, is that there are aspects of this that feels like Fallout DLC that just got expanded on. And I don't mean that in the sense that all of the game is shallow, but it feels like they took a shallow idea and tried to make it bigger. And that when you say, like, because you understand what this game is, you understand the troubles that it has and disconnects and content and having that, they didn't have to make this game. They didn't have to literally reach for the stars and make this space exploration wide ass game. So my thing is like, you knew what you were getting into. You knew you were trying to make this like blockbuster of a video game that like people have tried to make before, and it took 10 years for No Man's Sky to get to the point where people actually like genuinely are like, it's a good game, guys.
Or Star Citizen, which is still
in development.
Still in development, and somehow people are still donating money to that, which
that has to be illegal at this point. There's something wrong.
Yeah, this was like, are they laundering the money? Like,
those guys are living it up. But yeah, there's a shallow disconnect there, and I think it is honestly on Bethesda at this point. And again, it's not me saying it's a bad video game. There's just the way it was marketed, the way they chose this product, the way they've been working on it like this so hard, and like again, reaching for the stars. The final product was kind of a turd, like in terms of that grand scope of what it could have been. But yeah, I have one more point I wanted to make. So talk.
I mean, Alec, I know you were going to say something.
Yeah, so he was talking about the skill points, and that's kind of one of my biggest. I think I mentioned this in the previous podcast I was on for Starfield, but one of my biggest gripes with this game is that so many of the skill points and stuff you unlock through that are just there when you start other Bethesda games.
Yeah.
Like sneaking, pickpocketing, like all the stuff was just locked behind skills.
Yeah, like the fact that your character can't pickpocket just because they haven't earned the first skill is weird.
I can fix that too, because when you create your character, just have more perks available for that character. Where like instead of you getting 3 at the top, maybe you get 5. And then you can go through, and it doesn't fix it, but it makes it where like a lot of your characters can have sneak right at the top, because there's going to be more of them that have it right away. But the main
sneak,
thing
you can technically do without the skill.
You can also get certain things like that from just doing a certain quest. Like you just gain perks by entering into this quest.
That was really
complete the quest. You can just fucking start it and bounce.
So what I'm saying though is, I think sneak is different though, where you can still technically sneak around, but like the first level just gives you like the bar, like to let you know if you're hidden, detected, whatever.
Sure, but that seems kind of bullshit too.
And that's what I'm saying though, is that
I've never pickpocketed anyone in my life, but I could try right now if I wanted to. I understand that I wouldn't be good at it, but I could make the attempt.
Pickpocket is different though. You can't pickpocket without the skill.
The amount of times I tried to do that just to try to get around a quest and I realized I couldn't was too damn many.
See, I was a cyber runner, man. I was walking up to people, and I had the helmet that made me invisible when I crouched. Oh my god, bro.
The key point I want to make, and again, this is an endgame discussion we've already been talking about a lot that isn't, but this is like a main quest. So I feel like that's kind of endgame because you're talking about like getting to that. Okay. So you ran into a lot of reuse, like, I don't know, like bases. Does that make sense? Like a mine or a cave. I was just reskinned of the same thing, or literally like the exact same thing, just at a different location. They used that in the main quest. There's the exact same like mining facility in the main quest. Because like within the first like 5 hours, you go to like a drag and drop cave / system of sorts, and I would say like 3/4 of the way you go to the exact same fucking thing that's in a different location. And that's like the pinnacle of like, this game is so goddamn shallow at points that like they literally had to drag and drop the same thing into the main quest. That for me blew my mind. I was like, I understand you're going to drag and drop and reuse assets and stuff like that. That makes total sense. Like, I'm not going to be an ass about that. But doing that in the main quest, especially when your game is this big, seems like a big miss to me.
And yeah, like you said, I also, in a way, I kind of mainlined the Constellation quest, I guess we'll say. Just because I was doing so much side content at the beginning. Like, I didn't meet Andrasia until like 30 to 40 hours into my playthrough.
Same.
Yeah.
And I eventually just started mainlining the main quest, and I was just searching for artifacts, going to temple, like back to back to back to back to back to back. It's like, I can understand that you're trying to, you're meant to like break up those, but like, man, if you are just mainlining it, it's like, just throw a podcast on and just chill, because you're just going to different planets.
There's no puzzle or activity to do in these temples. It is just you walk in and I almost wish that they would have rather have done literally nothing than make me do this weird fly up, fly down,
Did you have issues with that mechanic? Because I fucking did.
Occasionally it would like
in some temples
go away from you. Yeah.
I was like, what the? Am I doing this wrong? Like,
I had to look up what to do. At first, I didn't understand at all what the fuck they wanted me. I thought I had to shoot the thing. I thought I had to hit. Like, I was doing everything except walking through it.
At one point, I kept getting. Like, I was too slow because if you slow, it just moves again, and then by that point, you're floating and you're like recovering. And then you're like, oh, it's moving again. You're like,
the amount of,
bitch. I literally just killed myself. I was like, threw a bunch of grenades. I was like, I don't give a shit. And I just went right at it. And I was like, yep, I don't care.
The amount of times my companion would like bump me, I'm like going towards the thing, and then they just knock me off course.
I would tell them to wait every time before I went in.
It was so annoying. It was always funny seeing them in the cutscene though when you're about to get your power, and they're just kill them there.
I did like the one where you can create a copy of yourself. Like I use that in firefights a lot.
The main one I used once I got it was the shield.
I was using personal atmosphere the most just so I could run after being encumbered.
Yeah, once you told me about that one, I used that a little bit. But yeah, basically for me, it was just the shield.
I thought basically that was like, go ahead, sorry.
Or the shield essentially like it, blocks damage. It sometimes has a chance to like reflect bullets, and when you're fighting that many Starborn, it definitely comes in handy.
Yeah, I thought the personal atmosphere was like you can go into space, kind of like Star-Lord, how he doesn't die. Because he's like part whatever. I thought you could like survive in space for a bit, and I'm like, why would I want to do that?
You can't even leave your ship anyway. Yeah,
I know. I thought maybe that perk like let you do it to like go get shit.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, no.
What was I gonna? There was something else.
Talking about main quest.
So yeah, stuff. Alec, you did step into the Starfield. Have you? Like, I'm assuming that from what I've heard, the first 2 times you do New Game Plus, nothing really happens that different in the different universe.
So, what happened to me is that it gives you this other, basically kind of starts you over on the main quest, and you go essentially back to the lodge. Mm-hmm. And what happens is you land and you get there, and you basically explain to the people of Constellation that you're from another galaxy. Yeah, or not galaxy. What?
Or you don't.
Or you don't. You have that choice. Yes. Yeah, I believe so.
That's. I got up to like that point before I went, and let me go back and just not walk through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did a thing where I had to save before the first choice. I had to save before the second choice. I had to save before, like, I had every permeation. So go ahead.
But you basically like get there essentially like in the other universe. You get there like right after your initial run-in with Crimson Fleet, and you find the first artifact. And in the other universe, or in this new universe, I should say, Vasco comes and just brings the artifact himself, and it's like, oh, and they say they just left you back on that mining facility.
Mm-hmm.
And then they basically, at least for me, since I told them I was from, told them the truth. They basically gave you the option of, do you want to skip the main quest, or do you want to like, or if you skip the main quest, you basically just go find some like the other artifact pieces, mm-hmm. or do you just play through the main quest like you would do in the regular game?
Right. The line where it's like where Vasco says like, yeah, we left your ass there, why would we take you with that? I liked that line because it made it feel like it made more sense. Like I was the one timeline where Barrett was like, take my ship, because I felt so weird. Like, yeah, you just kind of thrown into it in the dumbest way possible, I think. Like you're a miner, and then blah blah blah, and then here's my ship, and then here, shoot these people,
and then
it was really stupid. But it made that like weird canon event for my timeline make more sense, because I was like, it was like a one-off thing. My second thing I want to say, and then real quick, when you do the thing where you walk into it and then you come back and you have that cool ass suit, that broke me out of the immersion, because I'm just running around fucking whatever, the New Atlantis with that giant ass, or with that really dope suit where I'm Starborn now. And I'm just running around like dude. I'm like, this is stupid.
I noticed it was different too, because like the boost pack is like way better than like a basic one.
Yeah, I think it's
I maxed out my boost pack, so I don't know.
I forget what it's called, but there's one that's called like equal boost pack, which I think is, instead of random bursts, each click is designed to use up the same amount of fuel and be much more consistent with how high you go.
Gotcha.
I actually, so Alex, you said that you liked that suit is like, has the helmet.
Quick before that.
Okay, yeah.
I just want to say one thing. I also like how Austin said he liked the line from I think it was Sarah that actually said it, but it was about Vasco coming. But the other thing I liked was I guess they made Sarah act a little differently in the new universe, because like your character kind of has a line, really have a quote or a conversation line of like, oh, my Sarah would not have said that or done that or something to that extent. And so I thought it was different. I was like, just a little different, because granted, I haven't looked into any how multiple New Game Plus runs affect galaxies or universes.
Oh, they get wonky.
Yeah, I've already heard of two ones, which one is that, and I don't know if they're randomized.
They are. The first two are always the same, I think.
Or always the same, and then from there on, it's all random.
And then it's all randomized, which makes writing a guide for it a goddamn nightmare, and you just can't.
Yeah. So I've heard of one where it's like Cora's waiting for you at the lodge, and she goes, "I'm here because you killed my dad, or you let my dad die." And then you have to explain to her that like, no, you didn't. And she's like, well, damn it, this is not even the right you I'm after. And then she fucks off, or she stays there, but you fuck off.
Which made the way the original thing ends better for me, because I was like, they did nothing with her character besides like, oh, my dad died, and then she's just gone.
Okay, so we'll get into that. I mean, I also heard of one where it's like Walter is now the head of Constellation, and like kind of just paid his way to the top. Yeah. Yep. Now, I guess I want to know who everyone's emissary was, because I didn't realize that could change to be anybody. I thought it was just either who would die in the eye versus who would die in the lodge, because
it depends on who you save. If you stay in the lodge, or if you go to the eye.
But it could still be anybody from either
Constellation. Oh, gotcha. So mine was Barrett.
So was mine.
Mine wasn't. Mine was Sam.
Okay.
Sam.
Because you went to the eye, correct?
Yeah, because again, and I wanted to say it's at the top. My main quest was essentially dating Sarah. And the only reason my main quest was dating Sarah, because people are like, oh, she's a boring character. I didn't mind her character. She looks a lot like my wife. So I was like, well, yeah. Before I even knew she was romanceable, I'm like, canon wise, you're my wife. I was like, I don't get it.
So I heard of somebody who, I think it's based on which companion you spend the most time with. I guess Vasco doesn't count because he was the only companion I ever kept.
That would make sense, because the other option was Sarah, and then the other one was Sam. And Sam was the only other one at that point that I had come with me besides Sarah and Vasco.
See, and I've heard of somebody whose emissary was Andrea. So I think it could be literally... Yeah, Andrea. It could literally be anybody from Constellation, and I guess it's like the top... It's just whoever you've spent the most time with that's on the eye versus whoever you've spent the most time with that's in the lodge, and what decision you make from there.
Sure.
I was going to go up to the eye, and then just the hunter came too quickly.
Yeah, I was just like, my wife's there. I got to go. And that was before that she was my wife. Like, I got to say my wife. Bye, sorry. It's like as I'm leaving, I'm like, you're going to fucking die. Like, I knew he was going to die. I just, the way it's like, are you sure you want to go? I'm like, damn it.
Oh, see, in my playthrough, Sam literally says, if you hadn't stayed at the lodge, that probably would have been me. And I was like, okay, I see what they're doing. They're telling me what happened.
I like because there's a scene later on where I don't remember. I think it's like Vladimir or Victor or something.
Yeah,
the
Vladimir,
guy on the eye, who's just Paris. He's just Paris. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. The guy who just looks like Paris. There's a scene where he's like holding your dead body.
Yes. Okay.
And that was really good, but like at this point I had barely talking to this person. So I'm like it's a really touching moment, and I'm like, it's weird seeing myself like this, but I don't remember who you are. I don't remember what importance you have.
For me, since I've been doing so many main quests, I had so many of those like survey data things to sell to them. I'm like, what dialogue option do I need to choose to let me sell these to you?
Yeah,
I can double up on this bitch.
So when
I get money from you and from
when Vlad was holding my dead body, there was a line, because like he doesn't recognize you or doesn't believe that you're you when you walk in. And there was a line that's like,
I was, because
I saw a line that was like, I've always wondered if I could take you, and I was like, wonder what happened. And then I got to actually fight him in that other universe and take his stuff. And so now in my ship, I just have his clothes as an option that I could wear, like his blue tank top.
I had Sam's clothes, and then I also had like the Collector. Is that his name? the freaking sleazy guy with the big gold jacket. You have to go there to get one of the artifacts. You have to steal it or whatever.
Oh,
I don't know.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
I had his. It was the ugly ass outfit, but I was like, it's like an epic rare or whatever. I'm keeping the
Yep.
footage. But
Yeah, basically like the collector, but yeah,
I think he was
in
called the
space.
collector, but if it's not the collector, it's something very like that.
Yep.
The procurer.
The so was
The
the hunter?
collectionator.
Is the hunter the same for everybody?
Yeah,
Is
the
that-
hunter looks like it's always the priest,
Gotcha.
which I'm fine with. I mean,
that felt weird to me, but
yeah.
because they introduced the character and then that's the guy, and I'm like,
see,
okay.
maybe it wasn't as weird to me because I did something where I had already interacted with that priest before.
I interacted with him too because I had made my background like that, where it's like you get a free chest. Don't
Dude,
do that. They don't give you fuck at all. You
Dude,
get fucking
that
nothing.
was my biggest complaint. I was like, okay, if you choose one of the main two religions, they're like, you get a chest of items depending on these. I'm like, okay, little perk for my family growing up under this god versus that god. Maybe it's a decent. I thought it would be like a decent set of armor, maybe a couple of weapons. Yeah, it is whatever the priests wear, and then like the religious books, and it's like, what's this gonna do, man?
It was so useless. That was probably the most pissed off I was the entire
Because I
time.
wasted a whole trait on the fact that
I think you're better off just finding the one thing you want, where it's like it's either have a house or like parents, because I think those are fun, or just doing none of them, because I don't think any of them are genuinely beneficial. But
Yeah,
maybe because I did alien DNA too, and there's some weird thing you can do with like doctors with alien DNA, or like the file not found, which I don't think is the same thing, but like that one was intriguing.
That one was just like, yeah, kind of like very generic.
That was
good.
a background, I think.
Yeah. Which it's still like intriguing though. I was like, I can get behind that. But like the stuff where you get a free chest of literally nothing, like why would you even have that as an option? That's the dumbest.
And I get if it's a religion, they're like, hey, we can't give them weapons. Give me just decent starting armor, because that was one of the first things I did. Was wait, hold on, I got a chest here. Let me go there.
My assumption, because when I opened the chest and there was like next to fucking nothing in there, I was waiting for a quest to pop, where it was like, now that you have this stuff, there's its own unique quest line to go do something.
They want you to go to the less fortunate planets and spread unitedness across.
Sure. Oh, and this is not. I'm sorry, this is not endgame, but there's been a lot that we haven't talked about that wasn't endgame. Did you guys find the planet where they had clone American, or not just American, where there's clones of fucking famous people?
No. I have not found that planet. This is the thing that I think about the game is frustrating, is that when it's good and you just stumble upon a really weird planet or a really unique story within a planet. Yeah, it's like that's the Bethesda magic. Like one I've talked about on another podcast was just deciding for fun to go to Titan because that's where Thanos is from, which is a moon of Saturn. Like literally just being like, oh, I want to go to fucking Titan. And when I went there, there is a museum dedicated to old Earth with like talking about how NASA originally made it to the moon, VHS tapes, the historian talking about World War II and Hitler. The way I described it was like the way we would talk about the Crusades now, like just very, very simplified ideals. And like, I want to hear more about this creepy clone Hollywood planet, but like in general, I just wish that there was more things like this. But I guess it's also like what makes them so special when you find them is that they're rare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think what's different here is like in Fallout, you got those moments, but there was like a tinge of humanity on it too, or the lack thereof. So you were compelled. It's kind of like the Last of Us effect, where like you're compelled to be like, oh, this is such good storytelling of like how much good humanity can do, or the just really fucked up nature of it. So because in that world, like, I mean, post-apocalyptic, you're gonna get that.
Yeah.
But
or
in
what
Starfield,
humans do to survive.
Yes, in Starfield, like you don't get that angle on it, so it's just like, oh, this is really interesting, but like nothing is driving me to genuinely go see if person A made it through their hard time or whatever. But yeah, I don't remember if it was like Hoover or Eisenhower, but there's like a president there. There's Amelia Earhart.
Founder.
There's that joke was made. There's Genghis Khan. There's some famous like Egyptian priestess or something like that. I'm probably butchering that, and that's on me. It's my fault. I'm freaking white guy. But you can get Amelia Earhart as a companion, and her perks
I don't know if I trust her. I'm gonna be honest.
and she's a pilot. She has a pilot and like rifle certification, and her perks are like ass. So they're like level 1 or whatever. Maybe not, but like pretty useless. But I was like, it's so funny that I can have you as a companion at all that I had her as a companion for like the back half of my game because I found this planet pretty early on.
Whichever president it is they've cloned, can I have the president as a?
I don't think so, but I know I got Amelia Earhart. I don't think it was because of the choices I make, but you basically choose between the priestess, the president, and Genghis Khan. And again, these are clones. They really get into the clones being they're clones of this person, but they're not the same person.
They're genetically the same, but because their time periods are so different. They can't be the same.
They try to justify Genghis Khan. Let me fucking tell you. And I was like, I don't give a fuck. I am not siding with Genghis fucking Khan. So I also tried to be, I always do this, but I tried to be like not choose anyway. I tried to be like the mediator and make everyone happy, which in every fucking quest, of all time, that always gets me in trouble. Because it's like you're trying to make everyone happy, so somehow everyone
trying
dies.
To play both sides
type of a thing. That's not what happened, but like it definitely didn't go like I had to shoot like 50% of the people on this fucking planet because I was forced to side with one or the other.
All these clones gone. Earth is gone, and we can't even go back and get their DNA to make new clones.
They'll just make them again. It's fine. I will say the quest line for that was probably one of my favorites because not only do you deal with the interesting clones, but there's like a quest line to go find all these like what are they called in Starfield? Like the notes, the audio tapes or whatever.
Yeah.
And while you're doing that, you run into like this like super mega queen alien thing that really fucked me up for a while. And I was like, this is fun. Like I'm saving right before I go in. I'm changing my tactics. I'm getting different weapons. I'm going in a certain way, and like that was fun. Or like I'm using my double ability where I can make a copy of myself and just sending him out there to get fucking mauled, so I can just wail on this thing with my fucking heavy artillery. But yeah, that was like one of my top favorite quest lines. So
I mean, speaking of this quest line, like since we were talking late game stuff, getting into a bit more positive side, I know we've been a bit harsh on the game for the first part of this podcast.
Just bullying Todd Howard.
I really enjoyed the mission where you like when you jump to the planet and you get the distress call like as soon as you get there, and then you land and everything's just fine.
Yeah,
and it's the one where it essentially is the Titanfall 2 level effect and cause. If anybody's played that before.
Yeah, that's where you're like jumping back and forth between realities, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that one is super cool.
That one was very interesting. It did it was cool, but it felt shallow somehow. That's the thing.
It was literally just effect cause. Like they didn't do anything different because it's literally just you've jumping between two different combat scenarios. Like they had some unique like puzzle mechanics. Like you had to go into this other universe to get something to go back into the other one to get a key.
And different parts of the building were accessible depending on which universe you were in.
To be fair, they do something very, very, very much like this in Fallout 3, where it's not jumping between universes, but you see like the remnants of memories of these people that were drugged in this vault, and you kind of jump back and forth from seeing their reality to seeing your reality. So like,
gotcha.
Maybe did it first. Just saying.
Gotcha.
So when I went in, come before or after Skyward Sword? Because Skyward Sword has a very similar level.
I don't know. When did Skyward Sword come? Fallout 3 is like 2008 or some shit.
Oh, that's before then.
Okay, well, there you go. But so like when I went into that quest, I immediately thought Vault 62 or whatever the fuck. So like 69. To me, it felt more of a callback to another Fallout game. Another Bethesda thing. Like, so like it had a different effect on me.
All it's done for me is prove that wasn't the power of the SSD for Rift Apart, where they were like, if you hit this thing and boom, you go to the other unit. There was a whole level that was also this thing in Rift Apart. And they were like, thanks to the power of the SSD. And then like months later, I played Skyward Sword.
You saw that you can. I mean, there's been videos of Rift Apart running on a hard drive.
No, I know. I'm just fucking with it. But like that specific level, at least, wasn't the power.
Sure. Yeah.
But,
also, one more thing I want to say, and it's very brief. I really enjoyed. I don't even know if this was meant to be this way, but when you go down to Earth, the first thing that triggers is, hey, there's high radiation, and I was like, haha. Like to me, that was like a Fallout thing. And then you go around, you can find the Washington Monument, maybe. it's a landmark of some kind. And then you find a snow globe. And to me, that was another Fallout reference because you can collect snow globes in New Vegas.
Oh, gotcha.
So like again, those little things I liked because I think if you go to planets, it will show you like the little thing will go on your radar like this is high like temperature warning or whatever. But the first thing that pops up when you go to Earth is specifically radiation. And I'm like, I
think they touch on that with the grab drive part of the story.
Yeah,
sure,
because
but my thing about that is you didn't have to make that the story. Like I think that was deliberate maybe not for that reason, but they're like, hey, I could do a little nod here.
And they've done. I mean, they showed in the direct that fan is just a copy of the fan from Oblivion.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I don't know if you guys got any NPCs who said I used to be adventurer as well, and never mind, it's too long a story. Like just they almost reference arrow in the knee.
I did see that though, and I was like, haha, that's good.
Yeah, I saw some sort of reference to it online that line was made referenced to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, someone starts to saying that like never mind, it's too long a story.
It's nice.
But I guess the other thing was just the NASA mission. I think that follows that, reality switching mission. That was another really cool one because you get to go through and see the kind of the history of NASA and like all those kind of really cool, like the Discovery rover.
Yeah, I wanted more of that. Actually,
oh yeah,
I think if they had a few more of those and a few less of like going and getting the artifact missions, I think it would have been better. I still think,
and actually seeing the kind of the like I know Jordan, you had that short that and TikTok that showed that you can go see the lore of Starfield, in New Atlantis. Like I kind of wish there was more missions like Austin, you were saying like kind of going through like literally showing you like parts of the universe and like the lore. Like
I just didn't feel intrigued to hunt that down. So if they would have put more of that intrinsically in the main quest, I think that would have been pretty smart.
Because I didn't want to join the UC Vanguard right away. That wasn't like the player I was going for, so I completely missed all that lore.
Yeah, no,
I still haven't gone and seen it.
I don't know if you need to activate the quest to go down the elevator, but after you do it, you can still choose not to join.
Gotcha.
So that and that's what I found out is that you could do it without being you could do that section and then you go through, you do the pilot test, and when you come up, he's like, "So are you going to join?" You'd be like, "Let me think on it," and then just never get back to him.
Gotcha.
Like I deliberately didn't join anyone because I was just so uninterested. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
And I also think if they would have put more of those NASA like background stuff, which are very intriguing because they change, it's like alternate history thing. Like it's cool. Let's say you go to like 10 or 12 of those bases, right? And you kind of like learn more and more and more.
Yeah.
I think it would have been really neat to have like 3, maybe 4 like creature of the week, kind of like Alien vs Predator on those bases or something like that. Like, because I know they don't have a ton of aliens, but they do have a ton of alien like monster creature thingies. So I think it would have been cool to have like something like that or creature of the week was on.
That was, I mean, kind of my.
And there are a few of them, but
like another like it was just weird to me that there wasn't like any other intelligent life out there.
Yeah.
So that's something I talked about
that's a deliberate choice
on the Impressions podcast with that we did with Chance and Brett, who it was a very interesting perspective because they are both, and I don't know if you guys are, but I know they're both very, very into Mass Effect and love the Mass Effect trilogy. And it was interesting to me that, like, Austin, you said this is like 90% No Man's Sky and 90% Mass Effect, but it's not 100% of each.
I wouldn't even say 90. I'd say like 60.
Still adds up to 120%. But so like
200.
Do you guys think that that they're harmed by almost sticking too strongly to the NASA punk aesthetic?
I would say yes, because they only half-assed what they did with it. I think if they went all out, like what Alec and I have been talking about, where if they had more of those NASA-based like discovery type things, I think it would have been a lot better. But I think they leaned so hard on the artifacts and like the Starfield per se, like walking into that and having that as the key aspect, that theme of like the whole NASA punk thing was just was like set dressing.
Yeah. Well,
like they didn't really do much with it.
That, and then like because that's one thing I did kind of like was the NASA punk thing, but then it got to the part where they dipped a bit too much into the sci-fi. So it's like if you're doing that, like you know what I mean, like you're doing this reality hopping. It's multiple universes.
They went full on Interstellar. They went
Yeah,
like 100% into that, like out of nowhere almost.
yeah, it just seemed kind of odd to me that it's like, okay, you're just fully dipping into sci-fi now. Like, why couldn't you have done
Just
this a bit
sci-fi without
earlier?
aliens.
And
Yeah, I think if they would have set that up a little better, it would have made sense.
Yeah.
but
and
they
like
didn't.
if you could have, yeah, I said set it up a bit earlier, and then like throughout the game, you're getting like all these, kind of interesting tech and weapons to like upgrade your ship and upgrade yourself. Like, I think that could have been really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been going back and forth on whether or not I wish there were like other aliens in this. Like, I think it might have made the Mass Effect comparisons too obvious because, I mean, as a whole, I feel like people's first instinct has not been to compare this game to Mass Effect. I mean, maybe I've been off Twitter for like a month now, but like, maybe you guys can correct me.
Not by
But
choice.
like, not by choice. I'll send you a meme I made later. Hold up. But like from what I'm seeing, like nobody has went to this game and went like, oh wow, it's worse Mass Effect. People have like, I think No Man's Sky has been the easiest comparison, and I think that is both a positive and negative because like we all know that that's like a comeback story that really started off rough, and people argue that it has too much to do or it promised too much, and so that's why I think when you hear that comparison for this, it automatically makes you think something bad. But I almost wonder if comparing it to Mass Effect right away would have made it seem worse. It's tricky. I go back and forth on it the more and more I play.
I think the reason
that they tried. Go ahead.
I think the reason people are comparing it more to No Man's Sky is just like the whole mining and resource aspect and like the building outposts.
Yeah.
Whereas like Mass Effect is more RPG, like character action kind of thing. I'm not gonna say character, but like third person shooter. Like
Sure.
it coincides more with No Man's Sky and what you're doing in that game.
Yeah,
Than Mass Effect.
And Mass Effect is way more sci-fi in the sense that you don't have to have an official spacesuit on any of the planets you go on. Basically, every planet is assumed to have a breathable atmosphere. Maybe I'm remembering or misremembering something.
You're always wearing your combat suit, so it doesn't really matter. You have your breathable helmet or whatever.
Yeah,
it's not like you have to equip a helmet to be able to breathe. You're always wearing it.
Yeah, but like some of the helmets in Mass Effect that I used was like it was just a visor. Like your mouth and your respiratory system are out there. You might as well not be wearing a helmet. It's just that would look so. And it's the same thing.
Aesthetic, all right.
Honestly, all armor should listen. I know that people give this game a lot of hate, but hear me out. You know what Avengers did right? Is that what you look like has nothing to do with your armor?
The single player, that's what they did right.
No, but hear me out. Yeah. I should be allowed to be like, yo, I want this spec, this perk, whatever, but also be like, but I want the really shitty looking armor because it looks cool.
Well, that's
transmog.
Yeah, transmog. That's what I'm. Yeah, they don't have transmog in this game yet.
I do think it makes total sense that they wanted to have their own identity for Starfield, and that's why they went. I think that's why they went the NASA punk angle.
Oh, yeah.
I just really don't think they did enough with it. I also think it would have made more sense. I understand narratively why they didn't, but I think eventually down the line of the New Game Plus, I think it would have been neat to have one of the Starborn be an alien. But it would have made more sense too, because this is reality after reality after reality after reality. So you're telling me eventually, so many years into the future or the present past, however you see time, there isn't one fucking species. Like I'm sorry, that doesn't dwell, doesn't sit right with me. But
I guess the other thing that was weird is like we're talking the year like what was it 23, 30 something.
Sure.
And you're still like, I mean, I guess that's the only. I mean, I'd say it's only 300 years in the future, but still, like you would think we'd be a bit more advanced by then. But it's in this NASA
more than that, because I think Fallout was like 2200 something or 2300 something. So I don't know.
Yeah, but
I know it's not the same universe, but I'm just saying.
Right, but it just to me it was just seemed like you only got this far in 300 years.
Yep.
That's like when you read like a book from the 1950s, and they're like, in the year 2001, there'll be flying cars and all sickness will be gone.
Except for Back to the Future stuff, because like the hoverboard will happen, and the hoverboard happened that same year, and they had self like tying shoes, and those technically existed the same year. And then the Cubs won the World Series or whatever. I'm like, oh, it's all coming true.
Listen,
actually, the Cubs didn't. I think the Cubs
was like the year after,
following year.
Yeah,
but close enough.
Yeah,
things change in the timeline. All right, people fuck up. All right.
I like those little 2-wheel automatic things. They're fun.
It's not the hoverboard.
It's not a hoverboard though. Yeah.
It was called the hoverboard. Can't be a coincidence. Just fucking saying.
Right.
I broke my toe on one of those.
I broke my toe on a door frame. Oh. They jumped out in front of me.
Yeah. So like the last question I'll ask you guys that we can end on, because this is actually something that I've been thinking about as we've been talking, is part of the, I guess, none of us think that this game is objectively horrible or bad, but we also don't think it reaches the highs that it could.
It's my least favorite Bethesda game, without competition. So.
Now, do you think that was already going to be an uphill battle because you're less of a space person and more of a post-apocalyptic? And I'm assuming high fantasy is in between those two?
I would say yes, but I really think if you nailed what this was going for, as someone who talks about games this way, I would have been critically about it and been like, I like this game better, but like Starfield is better if it, you know what I mean, if it was, but like I'm not compelled to do that at all because I don't feel like that's true. Like I would rather play Oblivion again.
Okay. And I guess Alec, maybe just to chime in, like I don't know how much Bethesda games you've played, but like
I've played a few. I played Skyrim, Fallout 4, and a tiny bit of 76 just because I got it on sale for super cheap.
Gotcha. Okay. So the question that's been kind of sitting in my head since I've ended the game and more since we've started the podcast is like, do you think the story was so big that that's why, like, Fallout by its nature can't have a story about where all creation or all life stems from in the core? It is going to be...
They have that as a side quest.
Do they really?
Probably. I'm pretty sure I remember something where there's a person who talks about it like a religious cult.
Gotcha.
Go into that kind of stuff. Anyway, doesn't matter.
But I guess what I mean is like the scopes and themes of Fallout and Elder Scrolls are just so much more contained that you don't feel like you have to touch on all of it or everything. Like, do you think that maybe the end point of this story of like your character is going to find I guess for lack of a better word, essentially what a form of a god, maybe not an all-knowing, all-powerful god, but you are essentially finding the center of the universe, the start of existence.
I mean, Skyrim, you literally go to Valhalla and fight like the dragon there. That's
true, and it's really kind of cool. I remember doing it the first time. I was like, "This is fucking dope."
Yeah,
gotcha.
My thing about that is, and this isn't the best answer, is like once again, like I said before, they did not have to do the scope for that game for this game. No one forced them to make this game. It was a game they wanted to make. So them kind of putting that pressure on themselves, like in the most non-harsh way, I have no sympathy for that angle of it, where it's like because of the game it is, they slip up, but that's okay. But it's like, well, you didn't have to make the game.
I was gonna say they could have just made a really cool space RPG. They didn't have to include this multiple universe thing.
But that's what they went with. This would be a very, very, very fucking cool side quest. It'd be a super memorable side quest where it's like, you can get these powers. Maybe the powers are just for the side quests, because there are quests like that where you gain a thing and then blah, blah, blah. Then you kind of lose it. But I think it would have been really, really cool if that angle was a side quest. But they leaned into that. And there are certain aspects of it that work really well. And then there are certain aspects where it's just like, oof, that's kind of shallow. I wish I got more of.
Well, and that's the thing. I didn't have powers for half of my playthrough.
Same. I didn't know it was a thing.
Yeah. So when Chance put that spoiler, I mean, he put it in spoiler message, so I didn't but I didn't have to click on it. But because I am the way I am, I clicked on it because I thought, I'm a decent way into this game, and I'm like, there's powers in this game. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mentioned somewhere in the chat where I was like, you get a thing if you follow the main quest. So I suggest following the main quest until you get a thing, because I was like, you guys will know when you get it.
Yeah. They teased us with it, I think, at the end of the most recent direct, where the guy walks in and does just like the very generic force push looking move. But like, sorry, Austin, you're muted.
You're muted.
My bad. I just assumed that was tech.
Yeah,
like
I think
a weird like hand device that you can now do that now.
Again, going back to the Mass Effect comparison, I think a lot of people thought it was going to be like the Bionics. I forget what they're.
Yeah, something like
Biotics,
that.
yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it was like a power fist in Fallout. I don't know if you remember what that is, but it's basically like a super fist. But it was like the equivalent of that. But you just get like a little wrist bracelet, and then you punch or
Right.
whatever, and it just like whoosh.
Yeah.
Fosro da, but on a bracelet.
I mean, I'm definitely gonna keep playing. I mean, now that I've beaten the game is when I'm trying to mod it and get more stuff in. I really want to have fun with my ship and role play kind of in the post game. But I'm having fun with it. But I am seeing all the flaws that this game has, which I think is fine. You know,
Mhm.
no
Mhm.
game is perfect. Some of my most favorite games have inherent flaws, and,
Oh, yeah.
and you know, I mean, Pokemon Red and Blue is put together with duct tape and a prayer. So, like, you know,
It's fucking good though.
it's
It's
so
really
fucking
good.
good. Yeah. So,
Even
like,
more
you know,
with Gold and Silver.
Hell yeah.
yeah.
Hell
All
yeah,
right.
baby.
But does
Nice.
anybody have any final comments, things they
do.
want to bring up top? Yeah, go ahead, man.
I do. Because I heard people say like this is the most polished game I've ever played that was made by Bethesda, like the most polished Bethesda title. I don't know what the fuck you guys are drinking because I've played all of the Bethesda games you can imagine, and I have never had one of them crash as much as this game. This game crashed so many fucking times. Literally every time I go to space travel, crash. So like the first time I tried to space travel, every single fucking time, crash.
What are you playing on?
Series S, so maybe that's why. But every single fucking time,
Interesting.
I would have to. I found out that if I run to my ship and not fast travel to my ship, and then when I get into my ship, I fast travel to the cockpit because it gives you that option when you like get to the door.
Yeah.
Yep.
If I go to the cockpit and do it that way, it won't crash.
But if you just try to board your ship, it'll
if I
crash.
just try to board my ship by fast traveling to my ship and then using the grab drive to jump, it would crash every single time.
Interesting.
And that's not the only time it would crash. So you would have random things where like I'd go through a door.
Are other
and
Series S users having this issue?
I have no idea.
I
But
played
I've played
once.
other Bethesda titles on like, I mean, I guess it would be better hardware than when it came out. But I've never had a game crash this much.
Interesting.
See, I
To
played.
me, this isn't the buggiest game I've played, but it's definitely the
Right.
most like took me out of the experience because of a bug thing that isn't positive. Because some Bethesda things are funny, but the ones I hear were not funny.
Yeah, so I did play for a few hours on the Series S, thanks to the Xbox Play Anywhere. You know, I could transfer save like that, which is awesome.
Still pretty cool.
It's very cool. PlayStation, get on that. But it was. I mean, I only had crashes on PC mainly because I was using mods, and there's just sometimes where things. I mean, granted, I did have the occasional just random crash. That it's like it wasn't because mods usually if you run them, it's usually like at the beginning of the game or like when you load stuff in, and there's times like just randomly game just crashed all of a sudden.
That happened to me. Like let's say I played for 2 hours, right? I would have 4 to 5 crashes every single time without fail. Without fail.
Jeez.
I like when I first started the game again, but that's the title. I expected a patch to like early on, right? That would at least mitigate that. It never changed once, and maybe that is because I was playing on Series S. And I know sometimes like
the S stands for Switch.
Saves can just kind of have like a buggy continuation. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
Sometimes if you're playing a certain character, like if you do certain things and you carry on with like that code for whatever,
the whole
reason,
file is corrupted.
The whole file is corrupted, but not in a way that you can't play it. It's just for whatever reason this always happens. So maybe because I just stuck with the same character. I didn't roll another character or anything like that. So maybe that's why. But yeah, I've never had a Bethesda title crash this much. So. I thought that was worth mentioning because I haven't been able to talk about Starfield in general. Yeah. So,
I guess final question is: do you guys feel like you've done enough to give the game a score?
I would say so.
I would give it a 6, and that's as someone who loves Bethesda games, and I do intend to go back to it. Not because I'm like, hey, I really enjoy this game. There are certain aspects that I do really like about it, but I want to go back to it because I know me as a game player, I'm going to get that itch. I'm going to get that itch to play a Bethesda RPG because that's what I fucking do. And this is all I'm going to have. So I'm going to go back to it because every time I try to go back to Skyrim or Oblivion, Fallout's kind of doesn't count. It's my favorite shit ever. But every time I try to go back to another Bethesda RPG, I'm like, ugh. It's so old. It's so old. Which is, oh my god, the leaks for Fallout 3 and Oblivion remasters / remakes. That's so fucking cool. Anyway, but yeah, I will go back to it, and yes, I would give it a 6.
All right, Alec.
I was probably more in the maybe 7 to 7.5 range, or 7.5 range. But yeah, I'm not itching to go back to this anytime soon. Like,
Yeah.
I think I've told you guys, like, I basically did, a good amount, maybe 20, 30 hours into Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
Then I reviewed Body Biteland Overclocked, and then, came right into this, played 62 hours of this game for like 3 weeks straight. Like, as of the time of recording, I haven't played in like a week and a half. Like, it's
same. Yeah, it's been a minute for me. I think it's also worth mentioning my 6 goes off primarily the main quest.
Mhm.
So maybe I'm just giving the meat and potatoes a 6,
Okay.
and then the game as a whole, I can't really score that yet. But like the main thing you're getting in there to experience as like per the writing of the main quest, it's like overall the systems and the crashes and what I didn't like, and like the romance was cool and boost pack's fun, and yeah, I would give it a 6.
And that's why I think it gets to the more like 7 to 7.5 range,
That's kinda
just
what I'm getting
because
at, yeah.
because there are some of the faction quests that are really cool. I thought,
And that's probably what I'll start with, like whatever my new character is, because I will re-roll. I always do it. I always say, I'll jump in and continue. I never fucking do. I make a new character, and then I'll probably just do faction stuff. So, like to start out. So,
But-
yeah, I can see that
yeah.
experience being a lot more positive.
I'm with you, Alec. I feel like 7.5 is a score I'm very comfortable saying about this game, but like I'm enjoying it. I'm excited to put some mods in. As long as I have stuff to do, I'm gonna happily play it. Until
Please do the wackiest mods you can find.
Well, see, right now there's not too many
There's not too many
crazy
wacky,
mods
yeah.
because it's once they release the creation kit, because that's basically Bethesda's like toolkit.
I thought that was already out.
No, not that's come out I think early next year sometime.
Although
But once modders get a hold of that.
I thought they announced this one would come sooner than ever or whatever, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, the most wacky mod I've seen so far is, and a callback to the classic Skyrim mod, is that all the ships are just Thomas the Tank Engine characters.
Yep.
Yeah.
Again, I want to get like Grimace in there. Like I want some weird ass fucking character. Pooh Bear. Let's get Vegeta with the Scouter.
I want to make either whether they're intelligent aliens or just replacements for the animals. Like, give me a planet that's like inhabited by grimaces. Grimaci?
Give me a mod that just changed 25% of the people into aliens. Yeah, makes it better already.
And then also just for any of the modders,
humans.
For any of the modders out there, just get the Steam version, because there's so many mods that just aren't compatible with the Game Pass version.
That's what I'm struggling with right now.
And also, hot take to get us out: the inventory system, not that bad. If you know what going in what a Bethesda game is for inventory system, it feels just like every other inventory system. I don't give a shit. I don't know what anyone says. Like, and I'm not calling this person up, but Paris at the beginning was like, "This is abysmal," and I'm like, "What did you expect?" Like,
yeah, like
it's a Bethesda
honestly,
inventory system.
If you do it like you should play every Bethesda game, you do not get encumbered that quickly. You pick up a bunch of fucking shit. Shut the fuck up. Like, I picked up so much junk at the beginning, so much junk, and it took like 3 or 4 quests for me to get over encumbered. Like, you're doing it wrong. Then, like, you should be storing.
You're picking up junk,
but my ship gets full.
You should be going. You can upgrade that. 2, you can go back and you can sell your shit sooner. No one's making you carry the shit, and you have pack mules. So like, is it harsh? Yes, I would not say that system is like a good system. But if you're thinking it's any worse than any other Bethesda title, you're just something wrong. Play more games.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Sorry, I wanted my hot take to get in there.
It's fine. And on that note, we will see you guys next time. We have so many cool, exciting things coming up. And in the near future, we have bigger game releases. So make sure that you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned in here at Shared Screens. Later, you'll be getting a Spider-Man review. I don't know if we're doing Alan Wake 2, but maybe someone will play it here and talk about it. Assassin's Creed is coming up.
Mirage, maybe, I think.
Boom. Perfect. You heard it here. October is going to be filled with a bunch of cool content. So subscribe, ring that bell, and we'll see you next time. Bye.